Hey, this is Ciderhelm. I'm going to cover some of the builds I tried while doing Don't Feed Nunu. Before going further, I'm going to go ahead and say that I wanted to do this video with the same polish and editing as the Don't Feed, but it looks like that's not going to be possible to do for each champion. For now, I'll be posting all of the build recommendations in the movie information box below. When I can put together a more polished template for this, I will. The other thing I want to bring up is the links I'll be putting in below in each of these videos. I'm not a professional high elo league player, and I don't pretend to be. I don't optimize every build I run. I do, however, always read up on champions from sources I trust, often from players who are high elo, and I'll always link you to several champion guides in the movie information box. If you really want to learn champion builds and get some advice, follow these links. Finally, check the date on these movies if you come back to watch them. I won't be able to update all of them as patch changes come or the metagame shifts. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started on Nunu. I played Nunu as an AP caster and as a support. He can also be played tanky as well, but I didn't take this approach. I'll cover what you'll want for these roles. I found Nunu had a strong early game, but had a very weak late game unless I had a coordinated team. As an AP caster, I really wanted to get my ult off, and the best way I was able to do this was with the bush surprise, where one of my allies would lure other players into a bush I was in. This allowed me to activate my ult and usually get it off as long as they didn't see me immediately. It's a little like how I've seen AP Shakos played in the past. For Masteries, I went 2109 as a caster, with a focus on all of the spell damage offensive perks, and the mana utility perks. For playing support, I went 9021, picking up Magic Pen in offensive, and CDR in utility. If you want to be in team fights more often and be able to use your ult, I'd recommend 9210 with points more heavily invested in defensive. For runes, I chose Red Marks of Insight for Magic Pen. I chose either Yellow Seals of Resilience for flat armor or Seal of Replenishment for extra mana regen. The flat armor is always a safe bet, but replenishment comes in handy and it does help his sustain due to his consume. I chose Blue Glyphs of Potency for flat ability power as an AP caster. For support, I chose Glyphs of Focus or Glyphs of Celerity for cooldown reduction instead. Glyphs of Warding for flat magic resist are always a safe bet. Quintessences can go either as potency for ability power or fortitude for health. It depends on how confident you are on your play. Ability power is fine if you can sustain yourself with consume. For skills, I chose Flash and a second summoner skill of choice for each game. Ghost is good for getting in range for slowing someone, Exhaust is good for helping your team catch up to a fleeing opponent that you've gotten in range of, and Ignite is good for securing kills. Clarity is justifiable as it can greatly extend your harassment potential in a lane, both as a caster and support. And of course, get Smite if you're jungling. Consume is great, but Smite is great to have in addition to it. In terms of abilities, I always wanted at least one rank in each of my basic abilities by level 4. I would get Consume first if I was jungling or leashing for someone, as this is a huge chunk of damage on a jungle minion. Alternatively, I would get Ice Blast first, as this is good both for harassing and slowing if you're being chased. It's also good for getting some last hits in if you're being zoned. Blood Boil was usually picked up at level 4 if I was an AP caster, or level 3 if I was support. If jungling, I would prioritize a second point in Consume. In all other circumstances, I would prioritize Ice Blast first, Blood Boil second, and always get my ultimate when available. For items, I usually started with a Doran's Ring unless I felt I was going against a really strong harasser in lane. If this was the case, I'd go Boots and Health Pots instead. As an AP caster, there were 3 core items I would recommend: Rabadon's Death Cap, Sorcerer's Shoes, and Banshee's Veil. I don't have Banshees in many of the movie clips and only realized afterward that would have been an ideal choice in most games I played. Anyway, get these items in an order based on your situation. If you have a really strong early game, go ahead and start building towards Rabadon's Death Cap. If you're really getting beat up, build any of the items towards Banshee's Veil. And if you're having problems getting in range of players or staying out of range of them, get at least the basic boots. From this point on, you should focus on ability power and Magic Pen items. There are tankier selections like Rylai's that work on him, and against high magic resist teams, a Void Staff can be smart. For a support, I generally prioritized a Philosopher's Stone, later built into a Shirelia's Reverie for the activate buff and the cooldown reduction. I would prioritize cooldown reduction boots of Lucidity as well. Beyond this, I would choose items based on how they best benefited the team. Banshee's Veil would be good for allowing me to get my ult off. Randuin's Omen can also be a good bet. And of course, wards are important. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. If you have your own suggestions, leave them in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel.